host, T. Carol Jones. I'm here today with 5th Ward Alderman Desmond Yancy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Born and raised South Side, not too far from here. Grew up at 87th and Jeffrey, right near CVS. Father was a police officer. My mother was worked in medical billing, was a church volunteer, so kind of get my service from both of them. Grew up the youngest of 5 boys, and went to Kenwood. Had some really good experiences and kind of connecting with different segments of the community. Right, Kenwood was a very interesting place to be in the 80s, and I think it was from there where I got and started to understand who I was in terms of how I wanted to serve. So eventually, I ended up becoming a labor organizer, organizing Black women into labor unions. Who were mostly doing what we call companion, home care workers, child care providers, that sort of thing. Fighting for dignity and respect and for wages and benefits, because it's work that people do because they love it, but it doesn't pay well, and that's by design, right? This is work that was traditionally done by Black women that were, enslaved, and so most of my work has been around breaking down the systems. And so after my work in organizing, I started getting involved in politics, and eventually, I think the thing that brought me to running for office was the 2015 release of the tape of the murder of Laquan McDonald. And like I mentioned, I'm the son of a police officer, but I've also been in Chicago my entire life, and I know about the challenges between our community and the police, and decided to pivot my organizing work from economic justice to police accountability. And so in 2016, I co-founded the Grassroots Alliance for Police Accountability, which was a citywide coalition of organizations who were working to create a civilian oversight body for the police department. We passed an ordinance in 2021 after joining with some other coalitions, and now we've got civilian oversight of the police department. And it was kind of watching that legislative process from that perspective that helped me understand that we've got a lot of fights to fight in the Black community, and it's going to be important that we have elected officials who share our values, who want to do the hard work and have the hard conversations to pass the right pieces of legislation. So, my previous alderwoman Leslie Hairston was retiring, and I saw an opportunity to get involved in council. So here we are.
Okay. And so, what was your campaign based on?
A few things. First and foremost is making sure that community voice was centered in all of the stuff that happens in our city. As Black folks, we're used to politicians kind of saying, this is what's going on. This is the kind of story you're going to get. This is how our TIF money is going to be spent, right? This is what's happening with our schools, and people are disconnected, and because of that, they're disenfranchised. And so my campaign was about bringing people in, especially, so the ward it represent encompasses Hyde Park, South Shore, Woodlawn, Greater Grand Crossing. And South Shore and Woodlawn getting ready to go through, some pretty significant development. And for me, it's about making sure that the people who have been around those communities for, the last 30 years as the economy has flipped, that they're around to reap the benefits of this new version of the Southeast side. And so I want to make sure that as we see these things happening, that people are brought into that. And that's clear through the work that I did. So through our police accountability work, which started in 2016, we had hundreds of community meetings, had over 2,000 community organizations, faith-based organizations, labor unions, who had signed on to the work that we were doing. Individuals, and from folks like Mark Clemens, who was wrongfully convicted, to church folks, right? People who just wanted to see a different police department. And in crafting that ordinance, we worked mostly with the community, but we also involved the police department, we involved the mayor's office, because it's kind of hard to get something done if you don't have buy-in from people who are going to be most affected. And so using that experience is how I plan on leading in the 5th Ward.
So what has the experience been like so far?
Mostly amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a community that kind of grew up in South Shore Valley, but my family's been in South Shore for over 50 years. Spent a lot of time in South Shore, in Hyde Park. Being a Kenwood student, and my first job was in Hyde Park. So to be able to represent, communities that raised me has been awesome. I found a lot of, because of the time I spent there, just knowing a lot of people who live in the community who are supportive of my work. But also, it was time for something different. Alderman Harrison had been in office for 24 years and did an amazing job. And people were looking for someone who was like me, who wanted to bring their voice to the center of the conversation. And so we made sure to do that at every turn during the last, I think we're at 6 months now. Gone to dozens of community meetings, met with folks all across the board. I was at Mount Carmel yesterday celebrating their state championship in football. It's making sure people have access to us. That stuff has been great. We just went through our first budget process, which was from what I understand, this was atypical. But it was a lot. It's been likened to drinking from a fire hose, and so it is a lot of information. And then people's expectations, just because I'm a new alderman, the honeymoon period is over, and so they're still, people still want their trees trimmed and their parking placards and all that stuff. But we've got a great office, and so far things have been just sort of like nothing short of amazing.
So I read somewhere that you're a progressive. Can you explain what that means and how it informs the type of legislation you introduce and support?
Yeah, I don't really identify as a progressive.
Okay, you don't?
No,
Okay.
my politics are more black liberation.
Okay.
But in that lens, when I think about Harold Washington or even Martin Luther King, right, like if black folks win, we all win.
Okay.
And so for me, the difference between black liberation and progressive is black liberation centers not just black issues, but also black voices and the black experience. And the progressive movement has not done as good a job as black liberations in that space.
And you kind of talked about this being the first budget that you were a part of. What were some of the things that you would have done differently in regards to what was funded and how it was funded?
I think the biggest concern about this budget, and this budget is, I've worked adjacent to the city budgets for a while for my organizing work. This is the least controversial, except when it comes to, what I see as a lack of a clear investment in black people, right? We've got historic disinvestment in the black community, and we've got a black mayor and the blackest city council we've ever had, with over 20 elected members of the city council that are black and or represent black wards. And what I would have liked to see is just some real significant steps forward to answering the question about resolving black disinvestment, whether it is more funding for job training programs and partnerships that hire black people or formerly incarcerated people, or education dollars to help support outside programs, right? Our schools aren't doing enough, and there are a lot of reasons as to why, but there are community organizations that are doing a lot of amazing work, or delegate organizations with the city of Chicago. So to see more money funneled to them so they can help supplement the work that the public schools aren't able to do would be great. So, we've got a new opportunity at this in a year or so. I think that we're going to be all right. And, the more I pay attention, the more I talk to city residents and get a sense of what the needs are, I think I'll be able to represent in a much different position when it comes to the budget process next year.
That kind of leads me into my next question about how have you been engaging your constituents since you have been in office?
Yeah, we've got a lot of different touch points. There's an email that goes out every couple weeks that lets people know not just what's happening in the office, but seasonal tips, connecting to different agencies like the assessor's office or the treasurer's office, or city or state treasurer's office, homeowner resources for seniors. So we make sure that information goes out. And we've also got a Facebook page, Instagram, where we share information there. Every 2 weeks, We have meetings in our office where I meet one-on-one with constituents over a period of about 3 hours to help either hear their concerns or lend support to issues that they have. We also have regional meetings. We represent 4 different parts of the city. And so we've had 3 regional meetings so far where we've met with folks in the community, again, about, updates and things that are important to them. And then our office is pretty accessible, pretty easy to find. And we make sure that constituent emails are responded to, pretty quickly, because that's the other part of this. This work is really about serving the community, but not everybody needs service. And to be able to support those who need it, they're the ones who are going to advocate and say, this alderman has been responsive. Call the alderman's office about this issue, and someone is going to get back to you and be able to work towards a resolution. So it's really all the ways that we can, and we're also interested in hearing other ways people want to hear from us. Maybe it's a podcast at some point. Maybe it is virtual meetings instead of in person. All the different ways, and we're figuring that out, but I think we're going to be okay.
Based on the conversations you've had with your constituents, what do you see as the most critical issue in your ward? It's split. So when you think about the ward, the south end of the ward is, South Shore, Woodlawn, Greater Grand Crossing. When you break that down, we've got a small part of Woodlawn, but there's the disinvestment that's been there, and then this like rapid growth from the Obama Presidential Center just based on proximity. So there's a specific set of needs and concerns, because a lot of that is that we've got Hyde Park High School, and you juxtapose that with Mount Carmel High School, which is just a couple blocks away. You've got a lot of low-income and senior buildings kind of right in that footprint, but then you've got this, significant investment in the neighborhood, and so there's the concern about, is this going to be for us, or are we going to be pushed out? Then on the South Shore side, you've got the residual effect of that, but what's unique to me about South Shore is the makeup of the community. You've got the Jackson Park Highlands, where you've got $1 million homes, and then just across the street on Jeffrey, you've got folks on Section 8. And so, but you've also got like public safety concerns that permeate across the entire ward. So I think the biggest issue is public safety. Secondarily, it is the economic development and making sure that not just the folks in the Highlands get to keep their homes, but the people who live behind Fresh Market, the people who've been there since the late 60s and early 70s, who've raised kids and grandkids in their homes, are able to stay there as well. And there's the perception of the gentrification that's coming to force out homeowners and condo owners. So how are we supporting them and making sure that not only do they have a say-so in the development, but like I said earlier, that they're able to kind of stay and reap the benefit of it. And then Hyde Park, I think their number one concern is public safety, just like most folks in the city. But many of the conversations I've had with Hyde Park have been interesting in that a lot of people have said, we're cool over here. How do we support the work across the ward? And I think that that's what allows the Fifth Ward to be so unique, in that we all seem to be working together to bring support to it. And I don't want to forget Greater Grand Crossing. What's great about that community is that it's a hidden gem. Most people don't know what it is, why it exists, the history of it. But there's the Comer program. You've got the high school, and you've also got the Gary Comer Community Center, and the work that has been done there over the last 15 years is really incredible. And you've got the Ring of Hope, which is another community organization and church that is really digging into young people in the neighborhood. There's a revitalization that's coming there, and I'm just glad to be able to support that too. So I think we're on the upswing of the pendulum across the ward, and just really honored to be able to help steward this process. What are some of the things that are coming up in the Fifth Ward that you'd like to highlight?
Well, we're flushing out our calendar for 2024 now, so I'd like to say stay tuned. We're looking at creating a couple signature events in the ward. We have a back-to-school event that we do every year that is a kind of a carryover from the previous alderwoman, but we're looking to create some really unique things. And so I'll just ask people to follow us on Facebook or Twitter, and so they can hear about what's coming. But if there's some senior needs that people have, or I do want to frame this. I'm hosting a small business roundtable in January. And what's important about that is, because one, I've been pegged as a progressive and in some cases a socialist, and I want to be clear, I'm neither. I'm pro-black business, and I know that this administration has passed a couple of ordinances that have the business community kind of concerned about how their voice is going to be represented in city council. And so through this small business roundtable, gives us an opportunity to bring somewhere between 20 and 30 businesses together just to talk about what their concerns are, how we can support them as a city council, and then be able to create an ongoing conversation so that as we're looking to create legislation, we're able to do so in a way that doesn't harm small businesses, but really helps promote their growth.
Is serving as the Fifth Ward alderman a long-term role for you?
Yes.
Do you have any aspirations for higher political office in the city?
No, I think alderman is the sweet spot for me. It's a different skill set to be mayor. I don't want to go to DC. I've got a 9-year-old son, and so as I'm thinking this thing out, 3 terms, it's time to really, it's an opportunity to really build something special in South Shore, Hyde Park, Greater Grand Crossing, and Woodlawn, and then not live past my welcome. I look at the black political space today, and too often folks stick around longer than they should and don't have a succession plan.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is when it's time to go, I'll be in my 60s and trying to figure out what the next step is for me, but also want to make sure that I'm setting up the ward on a solid ground. So.
Where can people go to find out more about you and what you are doing in the Fifth Ward?
Ward 05 at cityofchicago.org is the best way. Send an email there letting folks know that you want to hear about what's going on, and you'll be able to get updated pretty regularly about what we're doing. You can also search for Alder Yancy 5 on social media, so that's on Facebook and also on Instagram, and you'll be able to see all the stuff that we're doing.
Okay, great. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like our audience to know?
One thing that I found really interesting about being a black alderman is that it's not just, you don't just represent the 50,000 people in the ward. Your role is also representing the 800,000 black people in the city of Chicago, which is a tough job. Our interests are varied. We are, still trying to figure out what the priority things are in our communities, and so it allows, seeing it from this perspective really allows me to really understand how important this role is and how pivotal it is when we look at what's happening for black people going forward. I mean, we don't have a daily over us holding the kind of black political class at bay. You don't have a Madigan anymore, and so it's a power vacuum that we have right now. And I think about opportunities for a lot of the younger, new black people, particularly black men who have gotten involved in politics. Through this last election cycle, there's myself, Ronnie Mosley in the 21st Ward, Will Hall in the 6th, and Lamont Robinson in the 4th Ward. 4, 5, and 6, the 3 of us sit in the front and Ronnie sits behind us. But it's something special about seeing black men step into this space, particularly with the moment that we're at, right? We've got black boys who are struggling, young black girls who don't see black men in positions of power who are really representing their interests. And my work is multi-generational, and I care a lot about bringing people with me, because I'm in spaces that people like me have never been in before. And so I want to make sure that there's space for people to come in behind me. So my chief of staff, Charles Kyle, is a former mentee of mine. Senator Lakeisha Collins is a former mentee of mine. Like, I just really believe in pouring into the previous the next generation, because we've got a lot of work to do. We're not going to do it all in my lifetime. And so I want to support people to keep the fight going.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
All right, thank you for having me.
Remember to make plans to join us again next for Conversations with the Citizen, the place where real